Hello, my name is Dr. Jeff Tarrant. I'm a licensed psychologist, board certified in neurofeedback, and the director of the NeuroMeditation Institute in Eugene, Oregon. And I wanted to talk today about the idea of being thoughtful about how we teach and talk about meditation, about being trauma-informed, having that sort of an approach to teaching meditation, with an understanding that not all meditations are the same, and not everybody responds to meditation the same way. And so somebody that has a trauma history can very easily be triggered by some of the instructions that are given by meditation and actually some of the states of consciousness that you're working with. So it's important to understand that and keep this in mind when we're working with people in these very delicate states of awareness. The first thing I want to talk about in this regard is the idea that mindfulness itself can be a trigger for somebody with a trauma history. And this is not what most people are hearing and talking about right now. Most people are hearing that mindfulness as a practice is an answer to post-traumatic stress disorder. And it certainly can be. It can be a very powerful intervention, something very useful. The ability to be able to step back from one's symptoms, to be able to step back from experiences of thoughts or feelings and not connect them to your identity, to yourself, can be very powerful and very important in the healing process. And it's also important to recognize that for some people, depending on where they're at in their healing process, this may not be possible. So to give an example, one of the practices that's very common with mindfulness is a body scan. And if you think about what the instructions are for a body scan, first, very often the person is lying down in a vulnerable, prone position. The lights are dark. And then there are instructions to notice every single little part of the body, one after another, to notice any kinds of sensations, reactions, feelings, thoughts that might arise, and to not connect to any of those. And if anything difficult arises, to just be with that. So if you think about that instruction for just a moment and think about someone with a trauma history, this could very easily be a trigger for someone. So being able to notice these things, so recognizing that this could very easily be a trigger for someone with a trauma history. It could bring up things like feelings of panic or dissociation. You can easily imagine that somebody in this situation, if they start experiencing unpleasant, difficult thoughts, if they start having flashbacks or they start having body memories for things that have happened in the past, that they may be laying there dissociating, or feeling like somehow they're doing this wrong and just waiting for the moment that this exercise is over. These may be the same people who never come back to a meditation practice again because they feel like somehow they're a failure or they're not able to meditate because this was an unsuccessful experience. When in reality, they didn't do anything wrong. Their experiences were completely normal and natural, but the instructions were insufficient. The instructions were not set up as a way to help somebody understand that this might happen and how to deal with that and manage it if it does happen. Not only the mindfulness practice itself, but actually even relaxation can be a trigger. And most people that work with trauma recognize this, that it's important to be careful when we introduce a relaxation exercise to somebody with a trauma history. And it's some of the same reasons. When you start to relax, one of the things that happens is the defense mechanisms also relax. We are a mind body. When the body relaxes, the mind relaxes. When the mind relaxes, the defense mechanisms relax. And this can be problematic because many people with a trauma history, they are working very hard on a subconscious or an unconscious level to contain or remove some of the really difficult feelings and thoughts that they experience and keeping them sort of out of conscious awareness. And as you begin to relax, those thoughts and feelings can actually bubble up and move into conscious awareness whether you want them to or not. This is what happens in things like an abreaction or a flashback. So again, this is something that is very real, and it happens actually more often than most people are aware of. And so we have to first be aware of this and then recognize, well, what can we do about this? How can we talk to people about these issues and help them so that people can benefit fully from the meditation and mindfulness practices? So this really gets to this idea of being trauma informed. How do we approach meditation and mindfulness from this perspective? And so it's really about putting the client, the student, the survivor in the center of our approach. So the first thing that we can do as teachers and instructors and therapists who work with these skills is to become knowledgeable about trauma and to really understand what's going on from their perspective. So recognizing that some responses to trauma may include numbing, it might include avoidance, increased sensitivity to environmental cues, and all of these things can happen in a meditation practice, and they do happen. They happen frequently, and they happen with all styles of meditation, whether it's something like a focus practice or mindfulness or a loving kindness practice. Any kind of meditation practice can actually elicit some of these responses. It's important to be able to provide accurate educational information to survivors about trauma and its effects. And really the way that we approach this is we talk about this with everybody in our classes. You know, it's actually, unfortunately, pretty safe to assume that the majority of people in any class or situation are going to have some level of trauma history. So from our perspective, it makes sense to talk to everybody about these issues so that everyone is aware and informed about some of the possible impacts that meditation can have. One of the things that you can really do is be flexible in how you teach meditation and offer choices whenever possible for any kind of an exercise or meditation practice. So very simply, even the way that you're using your body posture during meditation, offering flexibility with that. Is it okay to sit in various postures, to use a chair, to stand, to lie down, to get up and move if necessary? We actually very overtly talk about all of these things with our clients and students so that they are aware that they can navigate, they have the choice, and that they can navigate the situation in whatever way they need to so that they can work with their internal experience. Another piece of this is this idea of informed consent, making sure that our students and our clients really understand the potential impact of meditation and mindfulness, and they know what they're getting into and they know how to work with it skillfully. So, we talk about potential risk, and maybe this sounds, severe, talking about risk with meditation. But the reality is that there are a lot of people who have negative responses to meditation. Again, we don't hear about it very much, but this happens. It is very real. So they need to understand, our students and our clients, that meditation and mindfulness and practices of that nature can put them in touch with feelings, thoughts, bodily sensations that are difficult. Simply put. Same thing that we do with therapy, right? It's important to let our clients know that what they might experience. To let our students know that they have the right to discontinue at any point. So just because they started a class or they started a program, whether it's one meditation or 6 weeks or 6 months, that they have the right to discontinue at any point with no adverse consequences. In fact, we encourage people that it's like, if this is not the right time for you, if this is not the right practice for you, please talk to us so that we can help you find a practice or a situation that's going to be a better fit for what you need right now. I certainly don't want somebody in my class who feels obligated or they feel trapped. That's exactly the thing that we do not want, especially for somebody with a trauma history. Resources. Do the clients and students have additional resources to support them if they decide that they're going to go down this path, they're going to work with meditative states. They understand that difficult emotions and thoughts might come up. Do they have ways to work with that? Do they either have their own skill level to navigate that themselves, or friends, family, therapists, meditation groups where they can talk about these things, process them, and work them through? And then last but not least, one of the things that's really critically important is making sure that our students and clients have skills in grounding, that they know what that is, and that they have a variety of skills on how to do that for themselves. So an example of how we talk about this with our meditation students is that if they have their eyes closed and they're meditating and they're having a difficult time, something that they're not able to navigate at that moment, one of the easiest ways to ground is to open the eyes and become aware of the environment. Notice what you see around you. Notice what you feel with the body. Notice the colors and the textures. So this is kind of bringing you back into the current room, the current environment, rather than being in your own internal space. That's one example, but we want our students to have a lot of options so that they can decide what makes sense for them. They may have to get up and move. They may have to leave the room. That can be grounding, to move the body so that you're in the body. Whereas in a lot of meditative states, people become disconnected from a sense of their body. So this is just an example. So I hope in this short video you start to get an understanding of how and why this idea of being trauma-informed with meditation is so important. This is something that we really emphasize in our classes and our training. If this is of interest to you, if something you want to learn more about and how to implement this in your practices, please contact us. We do have some trainings coming up. We have a 3-day training coming up in March and invite you to check that out. You can look at our website, www.neuromeditationinstitute.com, or you can send an email to Dr. Tarrant, that's me, at dr.tarrant, T as in Tom, ARRANT, at hotmail.com. Thanks for your time and attention. Keep practicing, keep meditating, and we'll talk to you soon.